Hey, welcome back. Now that I've done two terrible movie reviews for Friday the 13th Part 5, The New Blood, and Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, I'm going to stick within the Paramount chapters of the Jason series, and I'm going to go to one of the better sequels, and one seems to be consensus among the fans, one of the better sequels and one of the fan favorites. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Now, after the fifth movie, which was a success, by the way, but there was a lot of fan backlash because nobody liked the idea that it wasn't Jason killing people in Friday the 13th Part 5. It just didn't work for people. And honestly, the story's not done well enough to sell what they were trying to do. It's a cool idea to do, but the script nor the direction or the way they try to pull it off worked because they never set up Roy as a character. So there was a mandate going into Part 6. You got to bring Jason back. That's what they wanted. Frank Mancuso Jr., whom I called Tom Mancuso Jr. in one of the previous reviews, which, sorry, it's Frank Mancuso Jr., mandated to the director, whoever came in to write and direct, Jason must return. Enter Tom McLaughlin. That's who they hired to write and direct Part 6. And his idea was to bring a little bit of fun and a little bit of comedy into the movie. Keep the horror elements for sure, but make it a little funner. Just make a fun time at the movies. That was his goal with the film. And now the gentleman who played Tommy Jarvis in Part 5, John Shepard, Frank Mancuso Jr. wanted him back for Tommy Jarvis in Part 6. But by that point, from what I saw in interviews with the gentleman who played Tommy Jarvis, that he, for personal reasons and becoming a born-again Christian, he didn't want to do a horror movie. So enter Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis in Part 6. Now, Tom Matthews, if you're a horror fan, was in Return of the Living Dead as Freddy. And then he reprised the role in Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Also, he's a small part in Black Hawk Down. Look for him as one of the helicopter pilots. He's only in the movie very briefly, but he is in that movie. And Tom Matthews is a pretty decent actor. So he was also was on an episode of Married with Children. It might have been more than one. I was a big fan of that series, but he's definitely in there as well. And he was definitely an upgrade for Tommy Jarvis. I think he's a better actor than Corey Feldman and the gentleman who did Part 5. No offense. I like Corey Feldman in some of the movies he did in the 80s, but he's not the greatest actor. Let's be honest here. Now, Jason, funny enough, as you know if you're a fan of the series, there's only ever been one guy who played Jason that played it more than once, and that was Kane Hodder when he took over in Part 7, 8, Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason X. He's the only one that ever did it more than once. All the other gentlemen who played Jason did it once and they were done. They never came back to do it again. So when they started filming this movie, they had a guy doing the Jason role. But after the executives of Paramount saw footage, they told Tom McLaughlin he has to recast. They didn't like that guy. So enter C.J. Graham, a former Marine and bouncer. Never did stunt work or anything. He came in and played Jason. And I think he's a pretty effective Jason, although he's different than most of them. He's more like the Terminator in this movie, if you noticed. It's kind of like how he played it, almost like the Terminator. Or as some people reference as super zombie Jason, which is kind of true too. But he was definitely good. He did all of his own stunts, even though he'd never done stunt work before. And he's big and intimidating. And he's a good Jason. He's definitely one of the better ones, for sure. I'd put him up there with Kane Hodder and Ted White, who did Jason in Part 4, for sure. And so with that, they had that down. The plan was to inject a little fun into the movie. The beginning of the movie shows Tommy Jarvis driving in his pickup truck, and he's on his way to the cemetery talking to his friend. And the guy who plays his friend was Horshack in Welcome Back, Kotter, if you remember that show. I remember it from Nickelodeon back in the day. Used to play reruns of that show. That's how I saw it, because the show's from the 70s and I wasn't born yet, but that's how I saw it on Nickelodeon. And they're driving to the cemetery, and Tommy Jarvis is explaining that he needs to see Jason's body to make sure he's dead. He's not convinced he's dead. And these two are just like out of the hospital pretty much, because they both have had traumatic experience, or both have had problems. And his buddy thinks he's crazy, but he's going along with it because he wants to make sure he's safe and everything's okay. They get to the cemetery, see the grave, and his friend's like, well, see, there he is. You don't have to, he's dead. But Tommy won't, that's not good enough. So he grabs his shovel, starts digging up Jason. He uncovers the coffin, pries it open, and there's the body covered in worms and spider webs. And Tommy in his head, and you could hear it on the audio in the movie, but they don't show any flashbacks. But you can start hearing audio from part 4. He's having a flashback to what took place when he was a kid. And he snaps, and he gets out of the grave, and he goes over to the old wrought iron fence and grabs a spike off of it. It's about 5-6 feet long. And he stabs Jason's body repeatedly. And in his mind, he just keeps hearing what happened in part 4. And he climbs out of the hole. The spike is still in Jason. Yes, I'm spoiling this. It's been out since 86. And if you're a fan, I assume you've seen this one. If not, I'm going to recommend it right now. Check it out. He leaves the stake in him, and he goes to get the gaslings. He wants to set the body on fire and make it ash to confirm to him that Jason will never come back and he'll never be a problem or never kill anybody ever again. As he gets out of the grave and starts walking towards the gas can, they show storm clouds rolling in and lightning strikes the metal stake into Jason, electrifies the rod, and it goes into Jason, his eyes open. Jason's back. And Tommy comes back over after the lightning strike. He gets up off the ground, goes over and pulls the stake out of Jason. Now this part's a little, why pull it out at this point? Just throw the gas on him, light him on fire. But he does, and when he goes to get out of the grave, Jason pops up and grabs him. Tommy kicks him off. He gets out of the grave. He goes and gets the gas can. Jason gets out. Tommy starts dousing him with gasoline. Jason starts walking towards him. It starts raining, and Tommy can't light a match to set him on fire. Enter the gentleman who played Horshack, comes running up behind Jason, hits him in the head with the shovel. Jason turns around and punches his fist right through his chest with his heart in his hand. And he throws him into the grave, and the door on his coffin shuts. And Tommy runs for it to his truck and takes off. Now, this is where some of the fun elements enter. It is a pretty cool opening sequence. I mean, some things don't make sense, but it's well shot. It's a very cool opening sequence, very gothic. This is when we get our first bit of fun that the director injected. Is we basically got James Bond style credit sequence in a Friday the 13th movie, and it's awesome. It is. It's just super cool. It's different. I enjoy it. It's cheesy, but it's cool. It's well done in a cheesy and fun way. Tommy takes off for the police station. Now, at this point, they've changed the name of Crystal Lake to Forest Green because they want to get the stink off the community, even though if you lived in the area, you would know it's Crystal Lake. It's not like it's a surprise, but whatever. To them, it made sense. Okay. And the cops don't believe him. And they actually throw him in jail because he tries to get one of the shotguns off the wall, and the cops throw him in jail, rightfully so. And in the morning, they decide they're going to drive him to the town limits and tell him they don't ever want to see him again. And they'll let him drive his own pickup truck. Well, he takes off for the cemetery to try to prove to the police that Jason's alive. What Tommy doesn't know, in the meantime, the caretaker of the cemetery has already covered the grave over. So when they get there and the cops tackle Tommy because he's running towards the grave, and he's like, just look for yourself, you'll see he's alive. And the sheriff looks and he's like, well, he must have got cold during the night and pulled the dirt back over. And he's making a dick out of him, obviously. And that's it. They let him go, and he supposedly leaves. And then we're introduced to our new camp counselors. One of them is the sheriff's daughter. And this is one of the only Friday the 13th movie where there's actually kids at the lake. They get a busload of kids. So when Jason starts killing a bunch of people later in the movie, there's actually little young children there in danger, although Jason never kills a kid. And then as we go along, Jason kills a bunch of people. And actually, there's a cool sequence in a Winnebago. The kid's name is Court. The guy who plays Court in that movie is actually a cousin of John Travolta. There's a little trivia for you. And they're at a campsite with his girlfriend, and they're having sex in the back of the Winnebago. And Jason shows up and they don't know it's Jason, but he pulls the power plug out, and the lights go out. They go out and investigate and decide they better get the hell out of there. And here's the other little piece of trivia, which you'll notice if you're a fan of the Rambo series, you'll know when you see it. Jason kills the girl. Court doesn't see it. He's driving. And Jason comes out of the bathroom, starts walking towards him. And then finally he notices him in the rearview mirror. Meanwhile, Jason pulls a knife out. That's the Rambo knife from part 2. And stabs him in the head. And the Winnebago crashes. And Jason gets out and stands on top. It's a cool shot. It's a cool sequence. This movie is, all the kills are well done. They're not overly gory. There's not a lot of blood in this movie. Definitely toned down from the other ones. And there's no nudity in this one. Tom McLaughlin said he didn't believe you need to have nudity in the movie to have a good movie or make people interested. If you make it more fun, that's all you have to do. And that's what he did. He did a nice job with that. There's another scene where he kills a girl, a woman, and she's in this, her head's in this mud puddle. And in her hand, they show her hand, and she has some money in her hand and an American Express card floating in the water. And the director said, if you see in interviews with him, said that he wanted the audience reaction in the theaters when it came out, people to say, "Don't leave home without it," because that was the catchphrase back then. If you remember those commercials. So it's just little things like that. It didn't make it a fun movie to watch. It's fast paced. The movie's only about an hour and a half total from the time you see Tommy Jarvis go to the cemetery till the end credits. That's all it is. It's a quick watch. The pace keeps moving. There's not any real downtime. There's a little downtime to get to know the characters a little bit, but he keeps the pace tight. It keeps moving. C.J. Graham's really good as Jason. Now, the way they kill Jason at the end is a little weak. Tommy Jarvis's idea is to send Jason back into Crystal Lake. So he goes out in a boat at the end with a small boulder with a chain around it and a noose, and he's going to hang around Jason's neck and send him back down to Crystal Lake. Obviously, through the struggle, he gets it on Jason. Jason goes down, but the sheriff's daughter has to swim out to save Tommy, and she turns on the motor for the boat and rams it into Jason's face, and really does a number on him. I mean, the blood's everywhere, and his neck gets sliced. And that part kind of sells a little bit better, but the whole idea of hanging him back down in the lake, and it's kind of weak. It's probably the weakest moment of the whole movie. And at the end, they show a shot of Jason hanging there. You think all is well, and his eye opens knowing that it's not over, which we all knew it wouldn't be because you can't kill the son of a bitch. But the other fun part about the movie, there's 3 Alice Cooper songs in this movie, and one he specifically wrote for this movie, The Man Behind the Mask. I have this song on my iTunes. I love it. It's 80s cheese, but I like it. It's Alice Cooper, man. You can't go wrong. And also during the Winnebago scene, they're playing Teenage Frankenstein. And then another part of the movie, which I'm trying to think now, they play another song from Alice Cooper. But yeah, Alice Cooper has some songs in the movie. So that's fun, too. It's the first time, really, in the Friday the 13th movie up to that point where they actually have some pop culture in there. So that's kind of a cool little turn. And, yeah, I would give the movie, I like it a lot. It's not my favorite Friday the 13th movie. Part 4 is my favorite. The first one, even though I recognize its nature of what it started, it's really just a ripoff of Halloween. And it's definitely not the best shot one of them all. What makes that movie more so than anything else, besides Kevin Bacon being in it, because I know everybody says that, is the kills by Tom Savini. The effects are great. But other than that, the movie's just okay. I can watch it and have fun with the original, but it's not the best. I would say Part 4 is my favorite. And then I like 2 and 3 in this one. I like 7. And then the first one. I know I go first one before 7. But that's neither here nor there. Eventually I'll get around to them all, and I'll do the New Line ones eventually too. I don't know. I've been in the Friday the 13th movie lately. I don't know. I missed the Friday the 13th in December, and now it's kind of on my mind and I want to watch these movies. But yeah, I would give this movie 6.5 out of 10. I know it seems a little low. I really like this movie, but there's some things holding it back. I would recommend it if you've never seen it. If you're a Jason fan, I assume you've already seen it and you'll enjoy this one. I know this is one the fans seem to like a lot, and it does have a lot of rewatchability to it. But yeah, 6.5 out of 10 from me. I would recommend it. I know it seems a little low, but there's some problems with the movie that prevent me from giving a little bit of a higher score. I would give Part 4 a higher score because it's my favorite one and some of the other ones. But this is definitely one of the better sequels. Tom McLaughlin did a good job. So that's it for me. I will continue my Friday the 13th reviews as we go along, and I'll get into New Line stuff. I might do some different movies here and there. But if you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment what you think about this sequel in the franchise. Right now I'm just concentrating on the Paramount ones. I'll get the New Line later. And that's it. And also, one more thing. This movie grossed $19.4 million and some change. This was actually the first one in the franchise to do under $20 million, which was repeated after this because they all grossed less up until Part 8 before Paramount sold off the rights to New Line. So that's their last piece of trivia. But other than that, have a great day. I hope you're having a happy new year, and I'll be back soon. Thanks. Bye.